we decided we've learned a ton over the last couple years. I'm joined by my head of sales here, Julio Viskovich, and we're both here in Kamloops, British Columbia. Let us know where you're tuning in from. If you guys are watching, it'd be great to hear from you. But today we're going to be discussing everything that's account-based marketing strategies. So just to give a high level to start, what is account-based marketing strategies? I think that's a good point, because if you're in a smaller company or you're mid-market, you typically might not know what this is. So it's when you're trying to tackle mid-market and enterprise companies, you're using high levels of personalization across channels. So whether that's social media or whether that's direct marketing or ads or whatever it is, or sales and the context towards it, high personalization to the stakeholders that are involved in the buying groups to get attention, to put across value proposition, to understand deeply the needs of the individuals that you're serving before you get there, and then contextually and listening socially to all their channels and what they're putting out as companies to know when the time is right to strike. So a lot of account-based marketing, it regards timing, personalization, reach, and being an authority figure and having trust and credibility in those spheres all at the same time. And it's marrying all that up and pairing that up with the best technologies to automate that, because it sounds like a heavy lift, and it is, without the right technologies. And so today we're going to dive into some themes, and we're going to sort of build this series over the next 4 or 5 months and show you contextually what's working in mid-market. And by mid-market, I'll just define it as 10 to 250 million really well. And then we're going to do a couple episodes on the enterprise side, which is above that sphere, and how people are winning. And then we'll go into a lot of different nuances that you're going to face within those villages of individuals that you're selling, thousands of different people spread across huge companies. So as you guys are watching here, please throw in, hey, where you're from, throw your comments down, throw your questions about your account-based marketing. We would love to hear from you. Given that this is our first one and we didn't promote this at all, we were just trying this out through a new platform that we're going to be using. And you'll see this series come up once or twice a month. We're still kind of deciding on the rhythm and cadence that we're going to be doing, probably 30 minutes to an hour long, typically, with where we're going. All right, so I want to dive straight into it. Julio, I know you've been working really hard in personalization and adaptation, everything from going out there after RFPs to going out there to large scale mid-market corporations, and you're coaching quite a few companies as we go along through that as well, or doing fractional sales management. So why don't you dive into a couple of things that you have prepared, and we'll go topic by topic here.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, yeah, good definition. It's just important, I think, to just like look at how things have changed a lot too. Like we're so used to the old spray and pray strategies and techniques where it's all about numbers, 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 and quantity, and getting out, emails and calls, and sometimes we forget that there's the need for personalization at an extreme rate, and that's the reality of it, right? Like buyers have changed so much now in terms of how they want to buy. And instead of trying to get them on the right day at the right time and just get lucky, they're researching and they're coming to us when they're ready to buy. So it's important now to get out there and start building all of those foundational pieces that you talked about, like putting yourself in the right spot, engaging with multiple stakeholders in a company, building relationships with people at different tiers and different levels within a company. And of course, yeah, hyper personalization, which is something that is going to be interesting to see how it plays out over the next little bit with AI coming into play, because now everybody has the ability to use it. So now it's going to come down to a race to who can do that best and to be able to personalize things. So a couple things that I want to touch on as we go through, but yeah, in terms of how things have gone this year, and how I've seen it play out and be successful, and it's really been just making sure that the first steps into the water, I would say, are done properly, and that means just reframing and forgetting what you've done in the past, and not taking that spray of pray approach, and really being more careful with how you approach organizations. It's not looking at just the decision maker, it's looking at the integrators, the users, the implementers, the influencers, as well as the decision makers. And it's about, getting in there and making sure that you can influence all of them. Because let's remember, I mean, I would say ABM is not something you may want to do at very small accounts, because it just takes a lot of time. And as you said before, Jordan, it's about the touch level, right? The higher the touch goes up, the higher the value of the account is, and the lower the value is, maybe the lower touch comes into it. So picking and choosing where that sort of like line is or bar is going to be set for you is going to be essential too, so that you're also making best value out of your time. And that's something that I've had to work with a number of folks on this year, is really determining where's that line and where do I put that initial sort of time into. Because if you did it for everyone at a smaller level, then you wouldn't have any time left in your day to actually close deals. So figuring out where that spot is, I think, has been challenging for a lot of folks, but I think it's something that's going to develop over this next year, and it's going to be really successful for anybody who's doing it properly.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is a lot of things that I've seen is owners and directors are very hesitant to um, actually start with the spray and pray approach at all, right? Because they're like, oh, I'll wreck my market in XYZ. And one thing I want, even the ABM, like hard proponents, the ones who like that, oh, I'll just work 20 close relationships and get it done, is that within every buying group, there's usually 5 to 12 decision makers, and people forget this. So if you have a target company list, let's say a typical ABM one's about 250 companies that you're going to be targeting that year, learning their objectives, who they are within the niches that you're doing. Let's say on average you have 7 people. So that's 1,250 people you need to make connection with. So calls and emails and development and connecting on LinkedIn and sending WhatsApps and texts and attending conferences where they are, the right groups, networking, the right advertisements, all these things come into play. You cannot just start narrow focused and try to talk to 20 people. You just can't do it. There's still a level of activity that's required, even from the most adept ABM strategies. So there's always a balance in between sales. And what I find nowadays is a lot of salespeople are lazy and they don't want to go out and do the generation because it's hard and they can't get through the rejection, right? And this is a big part of it. Most people, if you think of your experience with salespeople, aren't rejecting you. They're just not hearing you yet, right? And that's the thing, is there's a chase to it. There's a way, there's a message that might resonate, and your first message is not going to wreck your opportunity with that client. It's really not. It's not first impression. First impression is when you get on a call with someone, then they're formulating that impression very quickly. But a lot of the times they might see you on a live, and that's going to open up, or maybe see you on a video or see you in a communication that you're sending over, and that's going to open some things up. So when we're talking ABM in general, I think that a lot of people have to get out of their own heads that they can just prospect 20 people and then that's going to work out. There's still a level of hustle that needs to be involved. And most ABM teams I see suffer because they don't have the hustle. They go to this like, oh, I'm micro targeted working with just marketing and it's going to go right. I I have never seen a replacement for hustle in my life in sales. So why don't you talk a little bit about that, Julio? It's kind of the balance.
Yeah, I mean, and that is a challenge for everyone to kind of find their sweet spot sometimes, with regards to that balance, right? Because yeah, there's a lot of extra stuff that comes into play when you're doing ABM that you might not be thinking about on a regular basis. And these hyper touch and hyper personalization approaches, it's not an easy play just because you're working on less accounts or or something like that, right? So that personalization at scale is still something that needs to happen, and it's a challenge to do that. And then there's a lot more of a need, I would say, to align with marketing and to be like constantly talking to marketing, because they need to support things. They need to be able to provide you the content. They need to be doing things in the background as well. So it's not a walk in the park there either. And there's a lot of activity that needs to go on. You think about sales engagement and things that need to take place to build those relationships. It's not, putting in a call and then going dark for a couple weeks till your next call. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background where these relationships are going to need to be built, right? So I was a big proponent of like using the medic formula when just kind of talking with people and building those relationships, and essentially it was really like I like to sort of, whether it's enterprise or SME or wherever you are, medic sort of just kind of shows you or tells you that you should be sharing the right content to make the buyer a better buyer, right? And what I mean by that is like, let them be a good buyer, let them like give them the stuff that they need. Everybody's got to check off boxes. Everybody's got to be satisfied internally with themselves and by the stakeholders internally as well. So figure out what those pieces of content are and make sure you're sharing it with them, whether that's checklists, FAQs, fodders, competitive insights, whatever it might be. Give them what they need to buy good from you. And developing someone into a good buyer is not an easy thing to do. And oftentimes, as I said, it takes a lot of coordination with marketing to get the right pieces of content in front of the right people in order to move them along. So that's something that I think is going to be a challenge for people who aren't used to that marriage between sales and marketing. Like there's been siloed over the past, and trying to bring them together and work in a coordinated fashion is going to give some hiccups and some road bumps for a lot of folks, but they're needed. And I think once you iron that out, you're going to be in a very, very good spot. So I think a couple pieces there that are really on top of my mind when I go into an account and talk about ABM.
Yeah, and like one big thing for me is getting granular. ABM is about getting into the weeds with people. You can't just skip step as soon as they give you an opening. It's not the old ABC. It's not a car sale. Really, because you're dealing with such a large buying group and so many individual needs, it's up to you to just go peel back the onion layer, layer by layer by layer, and take your time. And don't be so apt to quote quickly. It's your ability to peel it back and understand how can you actually add value? How do you position it? Can you do it? Like, are you the right person? Because I think the strongest word in sales, especially in ABM, is no. Because a lot of the time when I'm dealing with customers, they're going to give me a list of things, and I'm like, "Oh, so what color do you want your unicorn's horn?" Like what's what? If they want you to solve every business problem, and for me, from a traditional approach, this is not possible. You have to know where you start and where you stop, what your strengths are, and you have to be able to encourage that. And the big thing is people skip steps today. Salespeople get too eager. And what I found in sales is that really it's not about the sale today. It's about keeping that client for 2, 3, 4 years. And that client is won by setting correct expectations at the start. And ABM is basically to a traditional salesperson who's done B2C or high frequency sales, it should say right above your desk, slow down, right? Just slow down. And that's the biggest thing that you can do is slow down and actually take the time, because when you're doing an account-based approach, it's almost like marrying that customer. You're fundamentally a key component of their business. This is for business decisions that are between, I would say, 50K and multi-millions, right? Like they're bigger decisions, whether that's a small, medium, large customer. And you want to realize that gravity. You want it to sink into you. You want to show them your ownership. You want to show them that you can challenge them and not just say yes to them, because, part of the ABM approach is being able to lead them. You're the expert, right? And you need to lead them to the promised land. So it's a mentality shift where most people just want to get a deal. And this is not the sale type. The sale type here is challenging them to bring out their best and being able to line up the internal and external consequences of that and building a project plan that can fit, because a lot of these pitches could be 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. Heck, I've seen ones that are 3 years for specialized manufacturing technology for environment or for specialized technology involving government works or DoD and things like this. So you have to make it a lot more profound. And it's not for the people that just want to close deals. You need someone who's almost a sales engineer, an archetype, to do ABM correctly. So that's why I think a big part that people skip is they just throw a regular salesperson into account based, and that's not the salesperson who should be in account based. So why don't we talk a little bit more, Julia, about I guess that relationship, but more problem solving than anything else within it, and how you kind of look up the setup of those sales.
Yeah, like I think you're absolutely right too. If you're thinking about just going into an account and selling, it's not going to happen, right? Because you have that mindset of being a vendor or being a seller, right? And that's not where your mindset needs to be. It's not where your relationship needs to be. You need to get to that status where you're considered a trusted advisor or an expert, and that's not going to happen overnight. And if you go in with that mindset, it's not going to happen, right? So going in with it to actually become that, and realizing it's going to take additional steps to do, it is something that some people have to think a little bit differently about, right? Because it takes time, it takes patience, and as you said, it could take up to couple years. Heck, I even seen a deal the other day happen after 10 years. So, not that I would say that that's a regular sales cycle, but hey, I mean, they're longer now, and these are the types of things that are going to happen, right? So, yeah, that personalization. It's just something I actually got from a conversation with you a while back. Was the personality types and really starting to understand people that way too, right? If you're going to I would say attack an account and look at it from a strategic standpoint. You got to consider all those things that maybe you didn't consider before, right? Like, I mean, how many salespeople who are trying to get a sale and not become a thought leader within the company or a trusted advisor had even considered personality types or communication styles or something like that across the organization, or identifying, who are the blockers, who are the champions within the organization that aren't in the decision, and that type of strategic decisions and outlook and strategy within an account are the ones that are going to make you successful, because that way you can learn about what people who don't want to open up to you have to say, because you can go through somebody else and you can get insight that you might have never gotten before. And these strategic plays are something that's not necessarily always in people's playbook, and there's something that has to be in there, because uh, now with the internet, everybody's got something to sell, right? And everybody's got the internet to look up and research. So the role of the salesperson's changed. Is not to go out there and call and sell somebody something. It's to go out there and help them. Go out there and figure out a way to help them and support them and build a relationship. And then when it's time, at the right time, it will be ready to come to fruition. For you as a salesperson too. So I always look at things and say, okay, well, if you're going to go into an account, don't even go in selling right off the bat. Like, figure out how you can help them. Like, maybe it's I don't know, if you're selling like web design services or something, like maybe you go in and say, hey, here's 3 things about your website, and I want to jump on a call and show you how to fix them. I don't even want to sell to you. And that's going to get you a call, right? And it's not the, hey, I want to jump into a discovery call because I got a lot of stuff to tell you. It's, how can I solve your problem? Or maybe it's, here's something that your salespeople should be aware of. Here's a day that your prospects is going to be important for your prospects that are coming up. I wanted to let you know about it and how you can attack how to approach that day and how to make it, beneficial for your company. Those types of things get people on the phone and give you a chance to help them at the beginning, and it really sets the stage to kind of build a relationship from there. So those are some of the things I'm seeing, like, kind of work at the beginning to sort of set the stage and just help people reframe their approach to organizations going in, and go in with helpful relationship building mindset first, rather than selling first, and then things blossom from there. And I think it's kind of a good way to get your foot in the door that way. And it's I've seen it work as an initial starting point to ABM.
Yeah, and those are really great points, Julio. With some of the things that are on my mind that stand out from that, one of the things that, if you want to recruit a great sales leader or a high-end closer in the space of B2B, you need someone who's actually genuinely curious. A lot of people like to hire the ambitious person who's, oh, I'm going to make millions of dollars and things. It's not the winner. The winner is the person who has a mind, who like maybe plays chess on weekends or loves to solve the puzzle that's in front of them. It's just a natural person who's drawn to difficult things, and they're genuinely curious in how they're handling things. Like, I every time I approach a client, I know that they have stuff to teach me. And some of my favorite questions are like, I'm almost like an annoying 5-year-old. So they say, what did you try? I would say, what did you try? And they say, I tried this. And I'm, why? And they say, well, because of this. And what were your results? And they tell me, oh, well, why do you think that happened? And they said, well, this. Well, internally, what did you guys do? And externally, where did they fail? And you just get genuinely curious about why they tried certain things, and try to work through the mindset of how and why and what. Because a lot of the time, people haven't asked them that question, and most people at companies don't do post-action reviews. So that's a military operation thing. But every time you go through an operation, especially if there was difficulty within it, you'd have to go through a post-action review, right? And so you should do the same thing internally. Like what worked, what didn't work. Like Julie and I do this constantly. And then we've learned how and when to book meetings in the process to push our process forward, to not let a customer off the hook or lose them in the pipeline. And we're constantly learning these things and iterating them. But you need a group of people. And this is why I think, Julia, at the start, you were alluding to having sales and marketing come together fundamentally. And we have meetings twice a week internally where sales and marketing share information. Sales is sharing the frontline needs of what the market's telling us, directly from the horse's mouth, as we like to say. And then marketing's digesting those, putting them through and learning how to cultivate more from marketing qualified lead to sales qualified lead for us, how to push those in cycles, where we're losing, what information they need in our process to bring those back alive as we recur, because we know that only 1 to 2% of leads in most B2B cycles convert to a deal right away. Most take years to go back through cycle, get familiar with you over time. Most people are going to buy in year 2, year 3 from you. That's just statistics. It's just the way things work in B2B cycles. So everything we do is to build pipelines for the future and think about how and what we do. And that's why I really appreciate those comments, Julios, because being genuinely curious allows us to relate the right information to marketing, because it's not traditionally, selling is not traditionally winning with the best solution. It's allowing people to understand their inner psychology and see the approach they're taking. Because a lot of people will try a marketing effort for 3 months and it takes a year. And even one of my friends, my dear friends the other day I was talking to, and I'm like, you want me to do marketing for you? You're signing a 1-year thing, because I know it's going to take a year for you to see what really comes of developing out that line. And I've seen you go from marketing partner to marketing partner in the past, 3 months here, 3 months there, 3 months overall. And that's not successful. These plans are not point and shoot. It's not like the Wild West. It's constant action, building pipeline, building trust, building authority. And too many people nowadays are trying to buy a solution to fix right now. The only thing that potentially does that is a really good outbound email campaign in high volume, and that can work, and there's good providers for that. But that also could affect your domain integrity if it's done wrong. So that's why when we're talking ABM, using LinkedIn, using specifics, using buying groups, you're making sure you're getting the protection of your domain. You're making sure that you're making the most of who's in the organization, navigating their charts. And if you guys don't have LinkedIn Sales Navigator Advanced Teams, you're missing out. You're missing like a key component about how to aggregate yourself in those markets, share information in between teams. And part of the ABM strategy is having good technology to enable you, because if you're missing it, how are you seeing intent data to know when to strike? How are you understanding an organizational chart to know who to talk to next if you're not getting a response from someone else? Because let's say 6 people don't respond to you, but that 7th person does. And then they get in the ear and they understand the inner psychology of their team. And then that next person gives you a shot, and the next person, and that's how the deal develops. So ABM is also an art of being able to take rejection from 6 people in the cycle, but going after that 7th on the team to get that ear. And that takes a lot. I think that's where most salespeople fail. Oh, they just don't want to talk to us. Well, maybe. But that's actually rare, because as a business owner myself, my favorite thing is another option on the desk. If I have another option across my desk, 2 things can happen. I'm ensuring I'm making the right decision for my company. And the second thing I'm doing is I'm comparing price to market value. And I always want those things. The more options I have across my desk that are simple for me to get across my desk, that are the right comparisons, the more likely I'm making the right decision for my company. And I want you to consider what those buying groups are doing is the same. That's basic purchasing methodology, is to compare and contrast options. But then people really buy on emotion. So if they feel stronger that the trust is going to come from one versus the other, you're going to win it. Like we just won a deal, Julio, myself, and like mainly Julio and the team here out of Australia, because even though we are much higher priced than the other options, we compare and contrast way better. We dug into the details, knew exactly what to do, and the trust that we could actually do what we needed to do for them was right there. And they were very certain. And people buy with that certainty and that emotion, being like, yeah, I feel good about that the risk is gone. And that's something, if you can eliminate in mind, so huge. So I know we got a couple minutes left. This was our first live. Everyone listening, if you could like repost, comment, like, tell us what you liked about this, tell us what you want to improve. See you on the next ones as we come out with these series. In the future, there'll be a big promotion cycle that comes with it. If you guys repost this, share it, like it, all that's awesome. We really appreciate you for that. And Julie, I'll pass you back to the final word, and then we'll jump off to our business day here.
Yeah, yeah. So thanks, Jordan, and appreciate everybody joining, and definitely look forward to having these a lot more often with everybody. And just wanted to like just loop back around to that last part about curiosity there and be genuine and curious, because people say, "Hey, I am curious. I ask my discovery questions," but there's such a fine line where like genuine curiosity when you see it, and if you do take that approach and you are genuinely curious and you ask those additional questions, it's like a revelation sometimes. And they just finally let their guard down and they realize that you're genuine about it. You've asked enough questions to show them that you really care about what they think and what's important to them. And that's when they open up. And that's such an important aspect of just kind of cracking that sort of like nut to get in there, and really start to make things happen internally. So thought that was a good point. And I think finally, just the tech stack part that you mentioned is LinkedIn and Sales Nav has been so essential for me. Like in terms of like going into an account, and if it's a large enough account, it will just map it for you automatically and put them in tiers of like decision makers, influencers, users, and that saves so much time, and it allows you to just attack the account and make a strategy around it versus spinning your wheels and not really knowing where to take things. It visually puts it in one nice spot for you so that you can look at it that way and then attack it in the right way. So I thought that was a really good piece there. So I think thank you for mentioning the tech stack there, because I think that was something important we should have thrown out there today as well. So yeah, thank you very much for having me on here, Jordan. Thank you for joining us, everyone, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll be doing a New Year's edition, everyone. So the first week of the new year, we'll throw one of these up. We'll promote the cycle, send it out to our list. If you guys want to get on our list and things, go ahead, go to the website, or you can hit up one of our calendars. We have the links on our profiles and things like that. Follow us for more content. Go follow Set to Close. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, reach out personally. Happy to answer and help you guys drive your B2B business going forward. Other than that, happy holidays, and we'll see you in January.
Thanks for watching, and keep removing those revenue roadblocks. If you want more videos like this, follow our channel for fresh, new content every day. Check out our RevOps playlist, or how about this video chosen just for you? See you next time.